Good evening. Welcome to Let's Talk Maywood on Diversity Today Media. I am your host, Dr. Reggie Ratliff. Before I introduce my guests for this evening, I just want to let the audience know that this podcast is a dedication to the late Honorable Diane Raulston. Mrs. Raulston was a school board member here in Prince William County, Virginia. And you may ask, well, if this is Let's Talk Maywood, why would we bring on someone who is not affiliated with Maywood? Well, I'm glad you asked. The reason why is because when I was raised in the village of Maywood, I was taught to be able to be diverse and to communicate with anybody, regardless of what field they come from, regardless of their background, their socioeconomic condition, their ethnicity, their gender, their race, none of that matters. And there's no better place, at least growing up in the 1970s and the 1980s, than learning that in the village of Maywood. And one other thing about Mrs. Raulston, before I bring on our guests, is that Mrs. Raulston was my mother-in-law. And to know her is to love her. She was a firecracker, and you'll find out in a few minutes. She fought hard for children as well as the community. And before I go any further, I want to go ahead and bring on my guest. He is the person who replaced my mother-in-law, the Honorable Diane Raulston. His name is Tracy Blake. Mr. Blake was born into a military family, spent much of his time in childhood moving around before he eventually settled in Omaha, Nebraska. He graduated from Boys Town High School, where he found purpose and a sense of that purpose through athletics and mentorship. From there, Mr. Blake went on to play Division I basketball at Idaho State and Nicholls State. He actually went to the NCAA tournament as a basketball player at D1, Nicholls State, and later earned degrees from Lincoln University and George Mason University with a master's degree. Mr. Blake's path wasn't easy. It wasn't peaches and cream, but it was redemptive. The obstacles that he faced as a young Black man shaped his belief in second chances. As Pastor Marvin Wiley would say, God give us bounce back power. And truly, Mr. Blake received bounce back power through transformative power of education. He ran for the school board to be an advocate and once needed and to help build a better system, not only for all students, but for his children, his 3 children who are currently enrolled in Prince William County Public Schools. As a father, a community member, and a man of faith, Mr. Blake is committed to ensuring that every student, regardless of background, has access to mental health support, early learning opportunities, and a school system that listens to and respects family. And without further ado, I'd like to bring on the Honorable Tracy Blake.
Hey, good evening, Dr.
Good
Ratliff.
evening. How you doing, sir?
I'm well. Thank you. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Absolutely. This is a special time, a special moment for both you and I. You know, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, Ms. Raulston was a great woman. She was a very dynamic woman. She was a transformational leader, and we're going to talk about that in just a few moments. But she impacted you in a positive way because she saw great potential in you, and you were able to develop and fulfill your potential to the position of now school board member of Prince William County Schools. But not only that, you are the vice president of the school board of Prince William County Schools.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nice.
The vice chair. Yeah. She was a very special person. You know, I mean, I tell now, just thinking back on it, right? I'm like, all the time we would be spending together. You know, you would see us sitting together or just talking all the time, talking in the morning. And she would be pouring into me. And sometimes I even tell myself, I'd be like, I don't even understand why she, all of this.
Right.
But she knew
Yes,
what she was doing the whole time. Like even I don't think people even understand how influential she was. And when people say she was truly transformative, she was the the chair of the school board right now, she was the one who put him forward because when you have a because you remember as you remember the Ryan Sawyer's he got replaced, so they had to have a when you get a chair replaced, there's not an election in Prince William County. The school board appoints another chair until the next term, until the next election. So she was influential
Right.
in putting Barbara Lateef up to be the chair until that next election. And since then, he's been the chair, right? Since the
Right.
turnaround then. So she put him in place, right? Then she
Right.
helped Justin get into onto the school board. That's another,
Right.
influential member of the school board.
And what was Justin's last name? What is his last name?
Wilkes,
Justin Wilkes.
yeah,
Justin Wilkes. Yeah. Yeah.
the Potomac District representative, and
Yeah.
and so and myself, she put she was like, oh, and that was and then Dr. McDade. So it's just a very you can see her imprint on the school board, and by that you can see her imprint on the whole school district, right? So
Absolutely.
that's how people now when you have to really sit back and reflect and be like, whoa, it really looked like it really hit me last night.
Yeah.
Now I really started to reflect, right? So 'cause it got really real, super real. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I tell you, when
at the
Miss
oh, go ahead.
when
Yeah,
so we're gonna put a pin on the influence that she had in bringing in Dr. McDade from Chicago Public Schools, no less, the third
right,
largest public school in the nation. I want you to talk about that. But before we dive into that aspect, I want to talk a little bit about who Tracy Blake is, the background
right,
for those who don't know who you are. Um, who is Tracy Blake? How did Tracy Blake evolve from a young man who settled in, was that Omaha, Nebraska? Was it the city of
right.
Omaha?
Yeah, Omaha. So
To here in DMV?
so my path was not, it was not a straight arrow path, but I came from Omaha. I was very good at basketball. I had some things in my life I was mad, but I was a little upset when I was younger. So I still was very smart and I was very good at basketball. So that got me my undergraduate education. I was smart enough to know that I could use this to go to school for free. So I did that. I'm cutting through a lot of stuff. I came out of Boys Town first of all. Then I don't know if people know where that is, but that was historically an orphanage in Omaha, Catholic school. It's like a boarding school. And so I came out of there. I went to school to play basketball. I was upset because my parents got divorced. I just felt like having two parents. I don't know why. I thought that's what I was entitled to. I didn't understand people had single parents and things like that. But that's another story, right? And so long story short, I did get myself back into Lincoln University, the HBCU in Jeff City, Missouri, and I graduated from there with a bachelor's of science cum laude in psychology. And then after that, my parents were Dr. Ratliff said earlier, I'm a military child, so I came from uh, Omaha, Nebraska, which is that's where Strategic Air Command is. That's a big Air Force base, an Offutt Air Force base out there. And so my parents got stationed here in like 1999, maybe at Bolin Air Force Base, and every year they just kept moving further and further south. Bolin Air Force Base is in Washington D.C. And so after I graduated undergraduate, I came here, lived with my parents, and started at George Mason for my graduate school. And with my graduate school, did that. It was industrial organizational psychology. So I went into business psych, like HR, leadership, performance appraisals, job appraisals, doing trying to get the employer and the employees to have the highest level of satisfaction and productivity at the same time. So that was the type of psychology I was in because I was gonna do clinical, but they don't really they just do like drug therapy. So I don't think that was good. I didn't like that. So
Right.
no.
So that's a
Before
pretty
I got here, that's how I got here to met Latrice. We had our children. I met Latrice. That's my wife. She is now a doctor of nursing. But we
yep,
met at George
yep,
Mason, and that's how she's integral because that's when we had our first child, Bella. Bella is how we, and then we moved here to this Dell City area, Minnieville. That's when I started to see Miss Raulston
yeah.
the first time, and it was because of me being involved with my daughter when she first went to kindergarten. So I would see Miss Raulston around there because like people would kind of find out she was the like nana for everybody, Neabsco's nana. So you would see her in the schools and at Minnieville a lot, but and I was just really involved in the schools because of my daughter. I just wanted to make sure, you know, everything was. I would just want to know what she was learning at school. I wanted to be involved, be that. I didn't have. Um, I feel like my dad didn't do that. My mom did, but my dad didn't, and I feel like I wanted that, so I did that for mine. I'd use that example. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned getting to Ms. Ralston. She saw potential in you when you were at Minnieville, and then did your children did they wind up going to middle school at Bevel Middle School?
Yes. Bevel. Bella has been to Bevel. Now Tracy and Ruby. So I have a 14-year old now, a 9-year old and a 5-year old. So Tracy and Ruby are still at Minnieville Elementary, but Bella has
Nice,
she did go to Bevel, and she's at Hilton now, the other Dale City
nice.
school. Yeah. Hmm.
Right, Hilton.
Right. But it's not. I
Yeah.
told her she should have went to
So how
the.
much? Now we talked. You,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, indeed. Um, so you spent a lot of time with Miss Ralston. Um, you had a chance to learn the ropes when she was a school board member, and even during election time, how she would be out in the community, and you guys would canvass the community, and talk to the residents, and you had there was someone running against her or what have you, but just showing how she maintained that cool head, but she also had a fiery side. Um, and she was known for being passionate about her work. Talk about that for a few moments in whatever area, whether it's in the schools or in the school board meeting or the name change, that took place just a few years ago.
She just she would do that. She would take the hard votes, right? She would do hard things if it was just about kids. So that's the bottom line with her. It was kids were about the first and last. It was kids. So it did not matter and it didn't matter what it was. If as long as that helped kids, whether it was perceived to be a Democrat issue or right issue or left issue, she was gonna reach across. She was gonna do what was right for the kids. And um, I could just think of it, just even like all the getting the trailers taken out. Now our population has grown again because it's been almost 10 years. It'll be since that 15 she got them out by like 19. So that's 7 8 years it's coming back around it, so the trailers are coming back now. But she got rid of like 70% of the trailers by getting renovations done on all the school, a lot of the schools in the district, a lot of the elementary schools getting additions added on, Garfield, all that stuff she would fight for, even for the
Yeah,
I mean McDade. Like I don't know, like that's the biggest thing. Well, that's one of the biggest things, but You said the name changing that, getting from Godwin to George Hampton, because Mills Godwin. I don't know if people know the history about him, but he kept the schools closed in Prince Edwards County, Virginia, when they were when schools were
Yeah.
desegregated, and we had a middle school in our district
Well,
named after him. Oh, go ahead.
yeah.
Or
Talk about that
we had
story,
a
Tracy. That story about
okay,
yeah.
so we had a middle
Talk about
school
that
named.
story about the name change and the fight to
Yeah, it was a fight. I mean, people didn't want to. She didn't care. People first. It was first she was selfless in letting the guy, Mr. Wilk, who I mentioned earlier. He wanted to come in the district, and he had a problem. He brought it to her attention, and she said, "Well, that's He was like, "I know this is your district, but I want to bring this to the board." And she said, "Go right ahead." Because this guy was, like I said, Mills Godwin was segregationist. He closed the whole school district in Prince Edwards County for 5 years because he didn't want to integrate the schools. So those little black kids that were in Prince Edward County did not have any school for 5 years in Virginia. And this is who they named schools after here. So
right.
they it was a battle. They didn't want to change that name. And
Nah.
she took that vote. They changed it. They fought. They changed the name. They changed it to Dr. George Hampton, and the rest is history. Now, and that's one of those things where again she was stood up for what was right. She did what was right.
Yes,
It
indeed.
wasn't very
She did
popular.
stand for what is right. Yep.
It wasn't popular in the community because that's what
Right.
they were used to.
Yeah.
You know. So
Right. Yeah. And they said they wanted to hold on to history.
right,
It barely passed. I mean, it won by like
right.
what, 2 votes or something like
No,
that. It was
yeah,
a
it was
lot of
very
public meetings.
right. It was very contentious. That's what I mean. Like the votes, like there was a lot of pressure on her to not do that. Not to do that. They didn't want to. Why are you changing this name? It's been like this. This is why are you trying to make white people feel bad, and all of those things. That they were saying. So, but she stood and she did what was right, and she changed the name.
Right.
And that's right. I mean, that the goals. Prince William County is the most diverse county in Virginia. We shouldn't have
She did.
any school named after anybody who is against inclusion,
Right.
equity,
Right.
and the
Right.
betterment of all people and all students. So yeah, I that was one thing she did. Um, I mean, she got the culinary. I know when I was with her, she brought the culinary, the professional
Yeah.
kitchen, the Garfield money for that to the high school. So now they have a culinary program there that cooks all the time. They cook for different events. Like I wish you could see how what was happening. Like look at this, what you fought for and put this money in the budget, and look where it's at now, and how and how the school transformed.
Right.
She put out the money to get the windows put in the
Absolutely.
Garfield. Like the whole school just looks transformed now. Like if you walk through there, they took those lockers out at the bottom. I don't know if you remember, but they had lockers in there. Now it's more of just a common area. She did a lot, put a lot of love, and
Yes.
she really cared about this
Yeah.
community and these kids.
Yeah.
And she changed that whole, because the perception about Garfield how it was, and now it's not. The perception is changing. Takes time
Hmm.
for stuff like that to happen, but she fought for that too. Fought for better teachers, for equal programs, equal access to programs for kids that have. If they were having this
Right.
over here on this side of the county,
Yeah.
why are these kids not
Yeah.
doing it over here? You know, they got science labs here. We need to have these kids with science labs.
Yeah.
And now all that's come to fruition. since those were things
Right.
she was
Absolutely.
fighting for,
So
and
I
now
want to touch on. Yeah, that's come to fruition. I want to piggyback on the influence of on the board to bring on Dr. McDade. As you know the story, Dr. McDade was the third in charge with Chicago Public Schools. She is from the South Side of Chicago, but she went to Whitney Young High School, which is on the west side of Chicago, which Terry says the best side of Chicago. And it's not too far from the area where I grew up in, Maywood. But talk about that story about how Miss McDade at the time, because she didn't have her doctorate yet, did she?
no, she wasn't the
When she
doctor.
was hired,
She
she
was
was studying for it.
right. By the time she came here and got the job, she was a doctor. Like when she started her job, she had her doctorate. But when she first was hired and did the interview process, that was just Mrs. McDade. Um, and first of all, I believe we didn't even have any black candidates to start off with in the superintendent search to even start off with at first. And so Ms. Raulston said we need, we why don't we have any? But we need to have some black candidates in here, or you can't say that. That was the first thing, and they did bring in some black candidates. And when they brought in Dr. McDade, I'm just gonna I'll tell the story because we're on the podcast. They brought in Dr. McDade. They asked, so then Dr. Lateef, they were asking Miss Raulston what her vote was, and she said they were doing it ranked voting. They had three candidates. I don't remember the other two, so they were doing 1, 2, 3, and they asked Miss Raulston, "Who's your one?" And she said that black lady from Chicago. I just want that black lady from Chicago, McDade. And then they said, "Well, who's your 2 and 3?" And she said, "I just got a 1." And they said, "Well, who's your 2 and 3?" And she said, "I only got one, Dr. McDade." Or not Dr. McDade, Mrs. McDade, that black lady from Chicago. And they said, "But that's not gonna work with the rank voting. We need a 2 and 3." She said, "Well, put her down for 2 and 3 too. 1, 2, and 3." And so, and so that was
Right.
she that was her right there, right? Don't that sound like her right there though? She said, "That's my
Yeah.
one." I mean, that was it. And then she was like, "I want that black lady from Chicago. Get that black lady from Chicago." They was like, "You can't say that like that." And she was like, "That's who I want." But yeah, yeah. And then
Yeah.
with her saying it like that, that gave that put that made it easier for the other board members to they wanted her to. Dr. McDade is a rock star, and since that advocacy and that
She is. How long has she been there now? How long has she been?
this is gonna be her fourth year, going on her 5th year.
Yeah.
Well,
See, it was what's that was so Tracy. So what drove me crazy was back home in my hometown, and I tell people where I live and all that kind of stuff. I was like, "Oh no, you out there with the like it's a rural area. You down there in the country, y'all got pigs and chicken farms and all that kind of stuff." There's no knock against those people, but that's not this area. This
no,
area, this area is nothing
no,
like what
no,
they call it the DMV or Northern
right,
Virginia. You shouldn't say anything because you just make yourself look bad. Like this is one of the nicest areas in the country. The highest price areas are in the Northern Virginia area.
right,
Prince William County is what number 7, the seventh wealthiest county in the country.
right,
Loudoun County is in the top 2, top 3. Fairfax
right,
County. So it's just so they could have. The point is they could have looked at other candidates maybe with more experience and that kind of thing to bring somebody in. But Ms. Raulston said, like you stated, she's my number 1, my number 2, and my number 3. Like,
3,
are you listening to me?
right.
She is the
She,
one who
she
I
made
want.
it. right. She made it very clear. And because when she spoke, people listened too. That's another thing, right? Because she didn't really waste her words.
Right.
She didn't waste what she said. She didn't say crazy things or stupid things or things. She wasn't inappropriate. So when she talked, people respect what she said, right? So when she said that's my 1, 2, and
Yep.
I only got one, I don't. I'm not really even. I didn't even care about these other two. Is what I'm telling y'all. This one is who we need. That's it.
Right.
So they
Right.
understood.
Right.
That's the
Right.
signal to everybody else. You know, that's this
Yep.
is
So
this is
she's originally from she was born in Kansas City, Missouri. She moved
hmm
to Oakland, went to Oakland Public Schools. So she from the Bay Area. So she got that swag,
right,
that like, hey, let's do this. Why are we talking about it? Let's be about it.
right.
Action. And then ultimately
City
she moved
not a
to
slouch
the Northern
area
Virginia
either.
area,
I said Kansas City
huh?
not a slouch. Kansas City not a slouch area either.
No,
Like Midwest, right? Kansas
no,
City,
no.
like all them is right, like 3 hours apart from each other. Kansas City and Omaha.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. So they talking
Yeah.
about Kansas City, you just got good barbecue. Like what? That's
I mean, yeah,
crazy.
that's what the black people do out there is barbecue, but they out there. And look,
Yeah,
yeah,
represented. But we're talking to the Honorable Tracy Blake, who is the Vice President of Prince William County School Board, and we are having a discussion about the late Honorable Diane Raulston, who left a print in Prince William County Schools and for the state of Virginia, for that matter. She was a very dynamic woman. She was a transformational leader, and when they say give your flowers when the person is still with us, she has received dozens upon dozens upon dozens from Prince William County Schools and the state of Virginia. Um, Mr. Blake, just kind of winding down this podcast and this remembrance of Miss Ralston. Is there any story that stands out for you that you will always remember, that you'd be willing to share with the audience as it relates to how Miss Ralston influenced you, not just you, but the community at large? Is there anything that stands out for you? Any particular story?
I mean, I got a lot of stories, but I'm gonna tell you. I remember one time, and it just shows you like she one time I the audience doesn't, but I got into some trouble, because I was having problems coping with some things, got in some trouble. Anyways, I talked to Miss Ross and was telling her the story about it, and I told the judge, if I was white and I had these same resources, education, y'all wouldn't even be messing with me. And she just looked at me and she said, Tracy, you're still in Virginia, and you you that's why you laughing because you know her, right? That's what she said, Tracy.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because she knows that I'm from Omaha, she from Kansas City, California. We talk differently. She said you can't talk like that here, and it was just her simple way, and it was just like a simple way of telling me, you got to check yourself. You can't act. You gotta act differently out here. This is how you have to move. You can't move like that out here. This is Virginia, Tracy. You are still in the South. I'm always gonna remember that story because it stays with me because it helped me just keep stay in line. It really helped me just stay in line and
Yeah.
how to how to think. But it was just she had simple things like that. Like that's just all she had to say. But the way she said it, and she was like, "But Tracy, you still in Virginia. This
Right.
is still
It's a
Virginia, sir.
reminder. Yeah.
Like what,
Yeah. Still the same.
what are you doing? You
Right.
don't know your history, sir. That's how
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it was that was I just thank God honestly because like out of all the people, like that's like a lightning strike. How
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
to even get to be able to sit in the seat, to get to be like, I didn't get to tell the story. She literally, showed me that I belong. You know, she didn't just say, "Oh, you belong, Tracy." She didn't just, she didn't talk. She didn't try to use me. She really showed me. Like the one time
Yeah.
she brought me to the legislative breakfast and literally moved somebody out of their seat to bring me a seat at the table. It was like, my boy needs a seat. He needed to sit next to me.
Yeah.
She
Yes.
didn't. She
Yeah.
was like, "Here, you sit here at this table with all these legislators. This is where you belong."
Yes. Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
she. I owe her a lot, and I always have carried myself with a lot of respect, and and just a lot of just thinking about her legacy and thinking about what she would do or how she would react, and
Yeah.
while
Yeah.
I'm doing these things, carrying her with me.
Yeah. Indeed.
Really.
Well, we're going to be laying her to rest tomorrow. We'll have a celebration of her life and all the people, the many lives that she's touched. So people are rolling into town from Kansas City, from California, of course, from other outside of the DMV, because she had that much influence on people. And like I said in the beginning of the podcast, to know her was to love her, because she loved what she did. And I just want to just add this addendum. People didn't know that Miss Raulston was a consultant for the NFL Players Association,
Right.
back in the San Francisco area. So she cut her teeth, in tough terrain, and brought that experience and knowledge and passion to the Northern Virginia area, particularly in Prince William County, to touch on politicians, some politicians that she touched on, and that kind of led to others being elected in other different positions, if you will. So, any final thoughts that you have, Tracy, as we end this podcast and prepare for tomorrow's celebration of life service?
She just, Miss Rawson was just a great example of a human being, a great woman. She was strong. She showed strength and character, grace at all times, style. You know, she had a mean style, mean shoe game. Um, and she was smart. She was politically savvy, and she was open with her knowledge too to the right people. Cause you
Mm,
see, if it was, and she passed that on, and I appreciate her, and I forever be indebted to Miss Diane Raulston.
absolutely.
Yeah, I remember she always said, "Tracy, just call me Diane." Nah, I can't do that, Miss Raulston.
Right. Yeah.
Nah, they could call you that, but I'm not gonna do that. They don't understand, but I do. So you know, um,
Yes.
yeah,
Well, you're on to bigger, better things. You contribute your success as a school board member, and reaching the highest one of the highest levels for an African American, in that as vice president, the Prince William County School Board. In this Ralston honor, and even in your you're moving forward in that space that you're in. What are your goals for the Prince William County School as you move forward?
just to continue to expand this early. I'm really big on early childhood education, just like how Miss Rawson was with the how she helped expand pre-K slots here in the district, and I'm really big. I really want to try to get universal pre-K for Prince William County some kind of way for our kids, for our 3 and 4 year olds, because all the evidence and all the research shows that early childhood intervention, early learning, it'll on the front end will kill all of that stuff, all of the crime. We won't need all of that money for juvenile detention and all those type of things, because we'll have affluent kids who will be able to read and work and do whatever they need to do. So that's really what I want to do. That's my ultimate goal. But otherwise, it just keep things even, make sure kids have the same opportunities across the board, and access to high quality education and different programs, and just keep fighting and being in the room. That's it. That's really it. But my big goal is that early childhood is preschool expansion for the county, for the
Nice. And Prince
family.
William County Prince William County has IB schools, right? For the most
Yeah,
part.
yeah. I mean, and that actually, the IB program is the only specialty program that we have at each level. So there's IB in elementary, middle, and high school.
Right. So those will be the PYP for elementary, the MYP for middle school, and the IB for freshman through senior, depending on the program, which is phenomenal because it shows growth and maturity of the school district. Um, and so, with that said, I know that Monique, my wife, and Ms. Raulston's daughter, she is also picking up the mantle of leadership and doing great things with the Dale City Civic Association. She's actually the president of the Dale City Civic Association. And my prayers and thoughts are with her. She's my wife, but she's also a fighter. She's also an advocate for children and for the community. And so, it's tough. It's tough. But, we trust God that will give her the strength and endurance to get through it. And praying for safe travels for those who are coming from both near and far to celebrate the life of the Honorable Diane Raulston. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that, friends and acquaintances who have passed back home in my hometown of Maywood. Shout out to particularly Jamie Ford and the Ford family on the passing of her son Brentes Ford. I hope I'm saying that correct. But the young man fought valiantly, but God saw a bigger plan and called him home to glory. So prayers going to the Ford family and those surrounding them during this season of bereavement back in Maywood, and everyone else who lost a family member in the village of Maywood. Let's keep everyone in prayer because we serve a God who can take away our pain and give us that peace that surpasses all understanding. And with that said, I pray that you continue to pray for a safe and sound community, safe and sound nation, and to be able to see tomorrow as a new day. I am your host, Dr. Reggie Ratliff. Thank you for tuning in on this memorable occasion, a memory that will last forever. Until next time, God bless you. Be safe. Good night.